You're listening to Brain Lenses, a show about how we perceive the world, ourselves, and each other. I'm Colin Wright. One of the key criticisms of psychology is that it's not, and by some arguments could never be, a hard science like math or physics, where you can express a hypothesis, test it, and then have clear indications as to whether your supposition was supported or not. This is not an official term, and it's often presented alongside the opposite colloquial term soft science, which is frequently leveled, at times pejoratively, at fields in which there are means of testing hypotheses. But even if you do, you can't say for certain that the study says what it seems to say, or even that it was testing what it seemed to be testing. This is not generally due to a lack of assiduousness or competency on the part of the researchers. There are just so many variables that can influence how a person thinks and behaves that experiments meant to assess such things cannot, with existing methods and metrics at least, concretely establish why we do the things we do in different contexts and how our behaviors might change as the variables acting upon us change. One of the consequences of this fuzziness, and one of the forces that might be in part responsible for perpetuating it, is what's sometimes called the toothbrush problem, which refers to the commonality in the field of psychology of inventing new theories for each new body of work. The name is derived from the researchers' supposed avoidance of frameworks that their peers invented. They avoid them like they might avoid another person's toothbrush. And the theory is that because many such researchers are keen to carve their own paths within academia, where many of them work and where many of them are hoping to attain tenure someday, they don't want to piggyback on anyone else's ideas, methods, or templates. They want to be seen as independent minds, capable of coming up with their own headline concepts and theories, and that incentivizes them to avoid using research methods other psychologists have innovated, coming up with their own instead, even if existing models might be perfect for their purposes. Thus, psychology has become a field awash in orthogonal theories, few of them interacting with the others or using comparable metrics, and that makes it difficult to benefit from the cumulative science we see in other research-focused fields, where individual theorists build atop each other's work, iterating and changing it sometimes, but doing so within a framework that expounds upon existing models rather than ignoring them, and setting things up so that their contemporaries and future scientists can build atop their own. There are efforts to address this issue, including a relatively recent program out of Germany called the Standardization of Behavior Research Methods, or SOBER, that's aiming to establish standards that would make more psychology research interactive and cross-compatible with other research, potentially making findings more robust, replicable, and build-atopable. This will likely be a global generational effort, though, similar to what we went through trying to standardize shipping containers, not something that happens overnight, and likely with a fair bit of pushback and a number of competing ideas about how best to do it arising in the meantime. You can find out more about Brain Lenses, including how to support this show, and in return receive an additional episode of the show each week at brainlenses.com. You can also support this and all of my projects at understandery.com. I'm Colin Wright, and I'll talk to you again next week.